This is Mindfulness with Richard, and I'm Richard Clarke. Welcome. This series focuses on mindfulness meditation. And we usually start and go around the table and ask about how last week's meditation has been. Since you haven't joined us, can you, before John, can you tell us a little bit about why you would like to start meditating?
You're talking about me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have been I don't know for how long, but ever since my wife passed away, I've been on a regimen that included a little blue pill that I had no idea what it was. And, but it was supposed to calm me down enough to make it possible for me to sleep during the night.
Uh-huh.
And then at one point, my sleep wouldn't come anyway, even though I was taking it. And so the doctor said, well, he says, how much are you taking? Because he knew I was taking it, but he didn't know how much anymore. Somehow his record was not there anyway. So I told him I'm taking half of a half milligram, a quarter of a milligram, really. And he said, oh, that's almost nothing. He said, why don't you go to half milligram? And so I innocently, I just follow his advice. And I never gave it a thought as to what it is that I'm taking, but it worked a little bit for a while, for several years, in fact. And then in a couple of weeks ago, I had a couple of panic attacks during the night, and it wasn't funny. And so anyway, so I went to the doctor, and we talked about, among others, this particular drug. And I told him, I said, I looked it up, and it's benzodiazepine, which is known in the U.S. as Xerox, and is probably the most abused drug in the United States. And said, I want to get off that. And so he put me on another drug that I haven't checked yet, but it's really something for an antidepressant. And but he says it does work after a couple of days as a sleeping pill, and he had quite a bit of success with that. So I'm taking that now, and but of course last night it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
And so I took half a pill of the what I used to take, the benzodiazepine. So well, it is. I didn't feel sleepy, and both besides that, my one leg was just jerking up and down, and I just couldn't control it. And it's scary as all hell. Anyway, I've been looking for ways to get over that, and one of the things is exercise, and I have a treadmill, and I religiously walk on it for 20 minutes every day.
Mhm.
And I do some other exercise besides, but also I read that meditation is another good antidote. So I hope that I can get into the mood of things and see if it actually worked for me too.
Well, there's lots of scientific testing that has been done with meditation and things like depression, and they found that meditation is just as good for depression as any of the antidepressants.
Yeah. Well, ideally, I like to get off
Oh,
any and all
good,
of those.
good. And certainly figuring out how to live taking fewer of these drugs seems like a great objective.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The thing is that to get the benefits, you're still going to have to figure out how to have a regular practice. And even when you're not with us, to find the time each day to meditate. And that's what gives you the benefit, not just joining a session every week, but actually giving
No,
yourself
I
time to
appreciate
do it
that. Yeah.
every day. So
How
anyway,
much time every,
welcome. And I hope.
I would like, Richard, I
Yes,
wanted to
please.
answer, John had a question you didn't answer. How much time a day? And I would like to answer by starting with something little like 5 minutes and working up.
oh, okay.
Right. And I think what Carol is saying there is good. You know, when you're beginning, don't try to force yourself. Just be gentle with yourself and do it as long as you can maintain focus.
Yeah.
And it's more important to do it 5 minutes every day and feel comfortable in doing it than it is trying to do it 20 minutes a day and just fighting yourself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you, Carol. That was an important feedback that you gave him. Okay, Doug, how's your meditation been in the last week?
Well, speaking of fighting yourself, yeah, so I missed last week. Sorry about that, but sometimes the demons win.
Mhm. Yes.
And so this week, I can't say that I've been meditating at all, but I'm going to get back into it now.
Okay. Well, good. Well, I hope we can help you. How about you, Richard? It seems like your meditation is mostly just fine. How are you doing?
Doing fine, and I wow, I welcome John to our little group.
Thank you.
And you know, I've been meditating since 1996, and it is definitely beneficial in that it quiets the mind a lot. And there are still times when you notice that mind rear its head, and the form that I like to practice is kind of like what Ramana Maharshi and the Sargadatta Maharaj advocated, just focusing on the I. So just meditating on I. And every time thoughts come up, just watch them go by and come back to the I and just stay there. And it has been a great blessing to have found those teachers and know me also. So that's a little suggestion that I give you, John, but I don't know what form of meditation you practice. Whichever one is comfortable for you, go for it.
And I think what Richard said then is important, that you need to do it in a way where you can do it regularly each day. And to do that, it needs to be something that you are comfortable with. And for most people, starting with the mindfulness, which really is watching your breath, is an easy way to get started. And once you are doing that and are comfortable with it, there are ways that you can continue to take the process deeper, like Richard was talking about with looking at your sense of existence, your sense of I. So there are ways where you can keep taking it deeper. But the thing that's important to begin with is do it something that you're comfortable with, that you can keep it up.
Yeah.
Because the benefits really come from some ongoing practice. How about, that's one of the reasons, by the way, why when I start these sessions, each time I ask, well, how was your meditation? Because it's one of the ways to encourage you to keep at it. You're going to have to answer me when we talk next.
And Gandhi used to say, meditate in the morning and at night. So like Carol said, if 5 minutes works, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 at night, and little by little, as you go deeper, the time can extend.
Yeah.
How was your meditation, Carol?
It was regular. We had a couple of sessions where the music across the street was so loud that I actually really couldn't hang on to it. But also I want to add for John that, we've been studying this meditation called self-inquiry, which Richard was referring to, about looking at the I, meaning looking at your, as the other Richard said, sense of your identity, not I, but not I as in EYE, by the way. And so I've started doing that, and I never could do it. And more recently, like in the past 4 or 5 years, I've learned about this breath watching. And that just means that every in-breath you take, you pay attention to it, and every out-breath, you pay attention to it. It's harder than it sounds at first, but it's really an easier way into the meditation process.
Well, that's, seems to me it's the way I should get started too.
So yeah, so maybe Richard Clarke will say something more about breath watching.
I had planned to.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so how we do it, John, is typically we have a couple of meditation sessions while we are together, usually 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, but not long. Then I will talk about some subject that I think is relevant for people who are learning to meditate and learning to get deeper in their meditation. And then usually I'll show some video that I think is associated with what we're talking about this time. So there'll be a couple of meditation sessions, a video of about 10 minutes, and me talking maybe for about 10 minutes is what we do. And next we're going to have the first meditation. And before we start, I just want to give you the basic set of instructions. And the basic set of instructions is what we start with is breath watching. And it's easy. You just pay attention to the feel of your in-breath. What does it feel like in your body? Maybe you pay attention in your nose. Maybe you pay attention in your belly. Maybe you pay attention in both places, but pay attention to the feel of your breath as you breathe in, and pay attention to the feel of your breath as you breathe out. And what you'll find is your mind starts to get quieter. You also will find that as you're doing it, thoughts will occur and this stuff will come up, and all of that's okay. That's what the mind does, is it has thoughts. So it's not a problem. But when you have the thought, instead of pursuing the thought, just come back, maybe say, I'm thinking, and just then remember to return to feeling your breath. And as things come up, just let them come up. You're not trying to make your experience be one way or another. What you're really doing is just noticing what is there and noticing it and learning to see the stuff without reacting to it. And as you find out that you can have all of these thoughts and feelings and stuff like this going on and still not react to everything like the way you were doing before, then you start to feel more freer, within yourself, and you start to feel more peaceful somehow. And it gives you a kind of internal power that you may not have known that you had. So does that make sense to you?
Well, not really, but
Okay.
it
Well, again, the
sounds
idea,
promising.
okay, the idea of when you're meditating, you're just putting yourself as the observer. You're watching whatever is going on. And to kind of help you do that, you're using the feeling of your breath as an anchor for your attention. So you just continue to return your attention when your mind wanders to the feeling of your breath. And as you do that, most people find their thoughts start to reduce and get less. And as your thoughts get less, then you feel somehow calmer and more peaceful inside.
All
So,
right.
so
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
And I'd like to add one thing that a spiritual teacher once told me, a spiritual teacher from India, that when you start meditation, it's like eating jackfruit. At first, it might be sour or bitter. Just keep chewing, and then it gets sweet. So when you start, just try, like Richard said, try and have that steady practice, a little bit in the morning, at night, and let the bitter get to the sweet.
All right.
Okay. And so now we're going to start our first meditation session. And mindfulness is present moment awareness. It's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So just let whatever is there be there without judging it, without defining it. Just let it be there. Fully receive whatever is experienced, and then, and this is important, then let it go. So it all sounds pretty simple. And here we go. Just breathe in and feel the breath as you breathe in, and breathe out and feel it as you breathe out. And when thoughts
And
come,
when thoughts come,
just notice
notice
and return
and return
to the meditation.
to meditation.
All right. Hello, Daniel. Good to see you. And yeah, I had muted you, Daniel, because I was getting feedback.
You can speak.
Yeah, my connection is horrible. Everything's breaking up. But yeah, yeah, I read all doing everything, but glad to be back.
Anyway, we'll do the best we can.
Well, it's the best we can.
And I'm going to mute you because
And I'm gonna mute you because
I'm getting some
Okay.
feedback. Okay. So
Yep.
today I'm going to talk about
I'm gonna talk about
being here and now.
here and now.
Uh, being in the now is a big part of mindfulness. It is a primary objective of the practice. The first time I really heard about this was when I was young and read the Aldous Huxley book, Island. The book featured a utopian society based on Eastern ideas that had enlightenment as the primary social goal. The book featured mynah birds trained to say two things: attention and here and now. These mynahs were a constant reminder to practice, to meditate. Maybe they'd be good for us to have to remind us. It's so easy to get distracted by all the activity of the world, all the activity of the mind, and forget to remain in this moment. There are two things about remaining in the moment. The first is that the mind gets quiet. Instead of pursuing the next thought, it's following something like the feel of this breath, or maybe the sound of ocean waves. The other thing is that this quiet is where new understandings of ourselves and the world arise. If the mind is noisy, then they just don't get through the noise. Mindfulness uses the focus on sensory awareness as a way to enter the now, to enter this moment. We use it to make the transition from thinking to sensing. Sensory experiences are always in this present moment. This is why I tell you to feel your breath. The key instruction is feel, directing you to your senses and to the present moment. To be mindful is to be aware of life in the present moment. You can be mindful all of the time. It is to be present and aware of life without judging it or attempting to describe it or define it in any way. It is just to experience things as they are, as opposed to how we think they are. The word mindfulness is a translation of the Sanskrit word smrti, which means to remember. Mindfulness is remembering to come home to the present moment whenever our attention is lost in thought. As simple as this sounds, it is incredibly liberating because the more present we become to the reality of life, the more we find joy and peace in our everyday experience, and the less we suffer from the many illusions, stories, and projections of our thinking mind. A way to practice attention to the senses is by starting out in one area of sensing awareness and then gradually expanding your intention to include more. This is a way to do it right now while sitting. Feel your breath. Now add the feeling of the weight of your body on the chair, on your feet. Now add the feeling of your body. Now add the feeling of your skin. And smell the smells in your space. And hear the sounds. And let yourself see the colors. How did that feel? How do you feel now? We're going to do more of this exercise in the final meditation. Now, I want to play a video from Eckhart Tolle on the most important spiritual practice.
This ability to look at things or listen to things or with other senses, smell, taste, touch, as the awareness rather than the interpreting mind, practice that in your daily life. It's a primordial spiritual practice. If that's your only spiritual practice, it would be quite enough. So, innocent perception, it requires awareness, it requires an alertness in the background of your perception. Without the alertness, thinking will always overpower you. The alertness keeps thinking at bay. You remember the story I wrote about in the A New Earth? It's an ancient Zen story where the disciple and the Zen master are walking on a long journey through the mountains. And then they stop for a little picnic. And then the disciple, who is still having problems understanding what Zen is all about, he's only been there for 10 years, he asks the master, I don't quite get it yet. How do I enter Zen? Meaning, how do I enter the state of consciousness that is Zen? How do I? And the master looks at him and says, can you hear the sound of that mountain stream? And the disciple says, no, I can't hear it. The master says, just see if you can listen, see if you can hear it. And this is the point of the master to the disciple, to become more alert. The master associates the alertness with the auditory perception there. So the alertness flows into the auditory perception. And as the master tells him, you have to listen more carefully to hear that mountain stream. And then the disciple, at that moment, the alertness, the awareness in the disciple rises, and he goes. And of course, at that very moment, while he's in that intense listening, he's no longer thinking or trying to figure out what Zen is all about. He's just... And then he can hear in the far distance, there's a tiny mountain stream that makes a sound. And suddenly he can hear it. And he says, yes, I can hear it. And the master says, that's it, enter Zen from there. Oh. This is a practical, to show by means of practical example what that means, that alertness. Jesus talks about it too. He said, if you be so awake as if you were, he gives the parable of a servant waiting for the master. He doesn't know when the master comes. He may come in very silently. So you have to be alert. Don't go to sleep. Be alert and wait for the master. So the servant is sitting in that house. The door, maybe is, in my version of the story, the servant is on the upper floor. And the master is going, could come in any moment. And the master is very quiet. So you go. So the servant basically would be in continuous presence. Otherwise he might miss the master. Again, it's an example to show what that state of consciousness is. Again, using the analogy with associating awareness with the auditory perception. You can associate it with other perceptions too, or with all perception, or with no perception. And there's no stress or strain in that alertness. There isn't a willfulness behind it. That's not it. You can't hold your breath and make yourself be more alert. I still can't hear the mountain stream. You have to. It's a relaxed alertness. That is one, I'll sometimes use the expression vibrational frequency, and there is a truth behind it, whether or not it's scientific, I don't care, by the way. I can sense because I also experience fluctuations, there's always a certain alertness in the background, but sometimes there's an increase in alertness, and sometimes it recedes, it's in the background. The awareness. And then the awareness, the light gets lit like a dimmer switch. It goes psh, and then it goes psh, it's still there. According to the situation. No, the so-called enlightened state, which is a destiny of each human to reach, although many won't reach it in this lifetime, but that's okay. that would mean there's a continuous background awareness, Indian continuous. And many of you already have it sporadically, and there may be some of you who already have it continuously in the background. And the only reason why you're here because it's enjoyable. But there's no point in asking, oh, when is it going to be continuous for me? Irrelevant question. The only true question is it there now? That's the only place where it can be, now. If it's not, whether it's going to be there 10 minutes from now, who knows? Is it going to be there next week when I get home? Who knows? But when you get home, it's now. So the only relevant question is, am I aware now? And if you even remember to ask that question, which is a powerful pointer to awareness, very easily you can step from the question, which is still a thought. I call it a pointer. Certain thoughts are pointers that point beyond thought. So that says, am I aware now? It's a powerful pointer. And after that, yes, that can immediately bring you to that alertness. I'm aware now? Let me just check. And that checking creates a rise in the vibrational frequency. You can feel that. And you can observe, you can learn to observe in people. It's not judgmental. It's a simple fact. You can look at a person, and to some extent you can see what degree of awareness is there. There are many humans who might never have heard of any spiritual teaching who have some awareness in their life. They don't know what it is, but it's there. I can very often, I don't like to be stopped and recognized in the street all the time, but it does happen a lot. And when it happens, it's lovely. So it's a paradox. I try to wear sometimes sunglasses and a baseball cap. A funny incident, I was in a supermarket and I was wearing dark sunglasses and a baseball cap and just looking at the shelves. And a man came up to me and said, "Hi, Eckhart, may I shake your hands? Do people recognize you a lot?" Now, I am saying this is quite not infrequently. I know a few seconds, I look at a person, a few seconds before they recognize me, I recognize them. I've never seen them before, but I recognize them. I know there's a fairly strong presence there. And then I know, oh, this person is going, and this is not a thought, it's just a realization, this person is going to recognize me. And most of the time I'm right.
And now we're going to meditate again. And I'll give you guidance this time. Feel your breath in and out. Feel it at the nostrils. Feel it in the belly. Now include the feel of your body against the chair. Feel its weight on your feet. Now include your skin, the feel of the air, the temperature, whatever breeze there is. Include your nose and the smell of the room or other people. Include your touch. Notice the feeling in your hands, how warm or cold they are. Now include your hearing, the sound in the room, the sound outside. Now include your sense of sight. With your eyes closed, focus on the back of your eyelids. You'll see some kind of background. It might be yellow or orange or blue. It might have flashing, starry or random shapes. Now open your eyes. Observe your surroundings. What light, what colors, what textures, what movements do you see? Now close your eyes again and return to the feel of your breath in and out. Feel the energy build as you breathe in and feel the calmness spread through your body as you breathe out. All right. And we end with a short chat. Oh. Sean to Sean to Sean to Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Questions or comments?
Oh, it's nice to see Daniel here.
Yes.
You're muted, Doug. Doug, you're muted.
I found that the restrictive piece of clothing I'm wearing is not helpful. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Is that just me or is that something that when I should meditate on my own, I should make sure that I don't wear any restrictive clothing?
Well, it means you were paying attention to your clothing.
That's
Yes.
for sure. Yeah.
Now, for your meditation that you do on your own, I recommend, find a place and just use that place as a regular place. And that helps you concentrate. And somehow you want to make it a habit, just like you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Then, like Richard was saying, it's good to find some regular time in the morning to do it, and maybe in the evening to do it. 2 short times, 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening, would be a great way to start. And again, you want to make it a habit. So it's something that you just get used to doing and you're going to do regularly as a part of your life.
Well, makes sense. I'll do it. I'll try anyway.
Okay. Well, that's all any of us do, is we give it the best we can.
Yeah.
And as you heard when people were talking about how their meditation was last week in the beginning, some people were saying, oh, it's great. And some people were saying, oh, I don't know. It wasn't a good week for me. And that's what it's like. But the point is to just keep doing it and let whatever is there be there. Don't fight it. Don't struggle it. Just let it be there and notice it. And when it's over, let it go.
Well, now that I'm unmuted, am
Yes.
I? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I read that book by Aldous Huxley way back. I don't know, I guess it was the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, probably same
And
time I did. Yes.
yeah, and I don't remember much about it, but one thing that I do remember is that parrot saying, here and now, boys, here and now.
Right.
He
Yes.
was a little bit sexist,
Yes.
but I remember that, and actually I often say that to myself,
Yes.
even all these years later, as here and now. Okay.
Yes. And certainly that's what I remember from the book. I don't remember anything else, but I remember the mina saying,
Yeah,
here and now, boys.
yeah.
And, the thing is about this here and now is I was telling you all what I think is kind of a trick in the here and now, which is just start paying attention to your senses, to some sensory experience. And these sensory experiences are always in the here and now. And because of that, you would see there actually are a lot of spiritual practices that what they really involve is paying attention to one sense experience or another. You know, that's the heart of the stuff behind any of these tantric practices, is their sensory experiences to bring you into the moment. Okay, well, it's good to see you. And
What's good with you? And
you're
Daniel's
cutting
trying to-
in and out, Daniel. So maybe next week will be better for you connecting and talking, Daniel. I'm glad to see you here, whatever is the case. So namaste and good
Yeah.
meditations, and we'll see you next week.
Okay,
Okay, thank you for
Bye.
leading.
thank you.